Courtside KC is sponsored by Roo News, UMKC's student-led newspaper. To read all the top stories on UMKC and Kansas City, go to kcroonews.com. Thank you for joining us on Courtside KC, your podcast for all Kansas City Roos news. I'm Cristian Martinez, and with me for the first time, Zayin Barnes. Z, we're in South Dakota. We're not filming this in Kansas City.
Right.
How we doing?
I feel good. I'm excited for the tournament. I'm excited to, finally be doing this. Talk about it for a while. So, got a lot to talk about. So I'm excited to be here.
During the ride, we talked a lot about this team and both men's and women's. And the 5-hour drive, talking about the Roos, that kind of lets time fly by. So Yeah, we also talked about some other things.
Obviously.
Like top 10.
We were just talking about the Roos.
Obviously. But, so I appreciate you guys listening. This is our first podcast episode. We've been planning this for a while. And
months.
Yeah, months. And we're happy to have it in this format.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll bring Imani soon.
He'll be here.
Oh, he's going to be here. You guys will love him.
Oh, yeah. The controversy's going to be insane.
Yeah. I heard he's a LeBron fan, so that's going to be interesting to talk about during some of our segments.
He's more of a LeBron disciple, if I'm being honest. It's more than a LeBron fan. It's respectable, though. That's LeBron. He's.
I get it. LeBron's great. He's no Michael Jordan, but,
to each their own,
Yeah, to each their own. Again, I think he's great, but he's not. Yeah, okay. We can talk about it later. Today,
separate occasion.
Yeah, separate occasion. Tonight, it's 9:42 while we film this, and we want to talk just about the expectation kind of heading into the Summit League tournament, and I'm excited to see how the Roos will do. But we're going to first start with men's, and to talk about men's, we have my good friend Zach Gunter. He's the sports writer, beat reporter for the men's basketball team. He's also our men's basketball analyst. So, Zach, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Cristian?
Doing well. Glad to have you here. Glad you made the trip as well. It was a long one.
Yes, it was.
All right, so we're going to start, obviously, by talking about who they're facing against. Kansas City will face Omaha at 8:30 p.m. Friday, which will probably be the day that the podcast releases. It'll probably release early in the morning, but yeah, they play Friday night, I should say. And let's get into it. So, I want to first talk about the injuries for both of you guys. So we're losing Shamari Allen. Mm-hmm. We're without Alan Mukeba Jr. And then obviously the biggest loss, I think, which was an injury in the beginning of the season, was Anderson Cobbs. So I think I'll start with you, Z. As a player who's played basketball, what does it mean to lose those two big guards and a forward like Mukeba?
It's obviously very impactful because, for one, Anderson, he was a great leader on the court, off the court. He's a great person too, I've heard. So that having that leadership presence, it's gonna hurt your team and kind of their chemistry. I feel like the Roos were okay on the chemistry part. I feel like they play well together. But, when you're expecting to, have this potentially be one of your top two players, losing him after, 3 or 4 games, that's tough. And then, Shamari, obviously, second leading scorer behind Raekwon.
Yep.
One of the top 5 leading scorers in the Summit League. That hurts, too, especially with a team that's struggled on offense all year. Because they have, the pieces, they have great scores, they have amazing talent. It's just, it doesn't seem to click at the right times. Seems like they dig holes for themselves and they just can't come out of them. So, having a guy like Shamari, that's one of the people that's going to get you out of a hole if it's dug. So, it's obviously also he's one of the, he's a fantastic, scorer. It's his finishing ability, his ability to read the defense, split double teams. It's amazing. So, having a guy like that who can give you a spark at any moment, who can play the entire game for you, it's a big loss, especially because UMKC has been known to struggle in the Summit League tournaments, I've heard. Especially men's, yeah. So that's gonna hurt you big time. And then Mukeba, that's another guy that he does it all for you. defense, offense, like whatever. He's a great rebounder, has amazing size, versatility is like almost unmatched. So I mean, like that's tough, especially a team that like is tall, like Omaha, I believe. Like that's somebody you're gonna want like to face against a bigger team because you have Jeff and Gandu, obviously. You have the Idiaru twins, but Mukeba's a guy that can make plays. He can facilitate a little bit, set the hard screens, finish in the paint. He's somebody that you're gonna want to have on your team. So all three of those losses, it's huge, especially for like chemistry and morale. Like that's don't even have to mention that.
Right. And Zach, you and I have been watching these games for the entire season, most if not the entire season. I wanted to get your thoughts as well. Someone who's watched these games with me, tell me a little bit about what the Roos are missing out on. And also something I wanted to add on with both of you guys, and feel free to jump in after he's done, and then I'll jump in too. But tell me a little bit about how the Roos can kind of make up for the loss of Shamari. And I mean, I know they've tried to make up for the loss of Mukeba and even Anderson, but tell me how they can kind of make up for all that.
Well, one thing I did want to say while Z was talking is it's not just your 8th, your 9th, your 10th best players that are getting hurt. I mean, you've got Shamari, who was the leading assist and leading steal player on the team. He had the most in both of those. He was the second highest scorer on the team. You had Mukeba, who started 17 games, and you had Kopp, who was one of the best from the three. So you're losing 3 very, very valuable players. And Allen started 28 of 31 games this season.
Right.
He was an integral part of this starting 5. But the way they can make up for it is by just getting other guards involved. You got to get Babacar Diallo involved. You got to get Tyler Andrews involved. You got to get you just have to get other guards involved and get them going as well, because you have a large shoes to fill with the absence of Shamari Allen. And also forward Allen David Mukeba Jr. You're missing a key part of the team. I don't want to say 6th man because he was also a starter, but he wasn't as much of a starter as Shamari Allen was.
Yeah, and I think it's impressive that, Kansas City, it's funny that, the rosters that they built here, specifically Marvin Menzies, the head coach, is that he has created a roster with depth.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you look at a player like Mukeba, he's a starter, but he can also play on the bench. You look at Ngandu, he can sit on the bench and then come in and play some big minutes. So I just think injury-wise, when we've watched these games, you can tell that the depth in the bench is kind of diminished.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because, think about this, right? You have Anderson Kopp.
Mm-hmm.
You can sit Shamari, or you can sit Raquandis, and you don't have to worry. You can just rotate guards in and out, just like that. And it's going to be a lot easier. That's how you keep your players healthy. That's how you keep, your players well rested.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that issue before with players in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
Z, you can kind of come in. If have you seen this depth of guards where it could have been used in Kansas City?
With UMKC, I'm not so sure. I think their strong points are the forwards. I think their post play is so important for them because of their versatility. Like you have Mukeba who can play he can play on the wing or he can play in the post. Right. Obviously, like Jeff and Gandu, he's going to be more stationary in the post. But then the Idiaru twins, they can knock them down from the 3-point line. You can put them there if you need to. They can stretch. They can play stretch. I think guard wise, I'm going to agree with you about cop Shamari and Raquandis. Like, if you have all three of those guys, one can sit, you still have the other two. We saw that with Raquandis and Shamari all year. Like, those two are like, you know, possibly the biggest players on the, like, you know, the biggest impact on the court at all times. And I think with this, like, first game, I'm looking at Raquandis. I think he has more of a chip on his shoulder, you know. That's the guy that's the leader. That's the leader of the team. That's the guy that everybody's going to look to. He's a scorer. Like, and even something I've noticed about Raquandis is even if he isn't scoring, he still impacts the game. So I'm looking at him in that way. With the guard situation, you still have, like, strong guards too. You have Sam Martin, great playmaking. You can look to him. I mean, you have both Diallo brothers can impact the game for you, like, regardless. But yeah. I don't know. I think Shamari is going to be a very big loss, but I'm not really so much concerned about depth as I am about what Raquandis needs to do and how he needs to step up.
Yeah, and I think you know, Zach, that's another interesting point is this expectation for Raquandis is going to be huge. I think that he is, I don't want to say it like this, but he is an inconsistent player. I feel like you're not seeing a consistent kind of 20 points per game kind of night every night or every game. I think there are some times where he can go off for like 25, and there are nights that he can just do 14. So I feel like the way that the Roos can come out of this tournament, you know, as let's say victors in their own way, is they need the better version of Raquandis.
While they do need the better version of Raquandis, they don't need the perfect version of Raquandis.
Fair.
We've seen multiple times this season games where Raquandis doesn't play to 25 points a game. He doesn't get a double-double. But they still get the win because, to your point, this team is deep.
Right.
It's not super top-heavy. There are very good players on this team. You have Raquandis. You had Shamari. But there are still players that can lift that flag and do it not by themselves, but still make an impact on the game.
Yeah, and funny enough too, you know, the Roos have not won men's basketball. They have not won a single tournament game in the history of their existence. Never made it past the first round. I think that it changes this week. That's what I personally think. I don't know about you guys, but I think that it changes because even though losing Shamari, Mukeba is huge, especially in this kind of matchup, yeah, against Omaha. I think this is a game that they come out as the winning team, and I also feel like this will be the first time that we'll see the Roos win. I am cautiously optimistic, I will say. I don't know about you guys.
I don't know. I don't know enough about Omaha to say all that. I just know that we have lost pretty big names.
They're the 10th seed, and they're not going to light it up. They do have some good shooting. They do have some good shooting nights. Zach wrote a preview on it, and you made a good point. You know, the Roos defensively, they're a liability sometimes. There are some stretches where
defensively,
yeah, there are times they kind of remind me of Lane, the women's basketball team, because there are times where they can play great defense, but there are times where they'll leave a player wide open for a three, like corner three. They leave people wide open the perimeter. It feels like a UMKC thing, but their defense sometimes, especially on runs, can be a liability.
I don't know. I think I have to disagree. I'm not sure. I feel like their defense is what they do best. I think their versatility gives them the rotations that they need. Watch the game, you see Shamari and Mukeba switch. Like, Mukeba can guard who Shamari was guarded. Shamari can go guard, and then they know what to do. Like, you watch them, their chemistry, they know what to do. Like, a lot of the times you'll see the defense. Obviously, yeah, they get lazy, you know. I feel like a lot of teams get lazy at some points, and then, you know, it is also a factor when you're losing or down. It's just kind of like, it's like, okay, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to do this. But
the problem, though, too, is, like, Shamari Allen, he's the guy who was stealing everything.
Yes.
He's like that Jose Alvarado Alvarado that you.
He's a great on-ball defender. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mukeba was a great defender in terms of blocks.
Mm-hmm.
You lose those two ever since they both were gone.
Not even just blocks and steals.
Blocks and steals. Those, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this defense is a liability, and they can leave someone wide open without thought.
I want to make another point. What you just said, since losing Mukeba, it's not just the defense. The offense is averaging 54.4 points per game since losing Mukeba on February 9th.
I think that's more of a. I think offensive. Again, the Roos offensively, I think they can do well. I don't think Mukeba provided too much.
I mean, that's like, what is that? That's a 14-point difference, isn't it? Wasn't it like 68 before that?
68.8 points per game.
Golly.
I think you have to look at it from a different perspective. Like, he's not averaging 14 points a game, right?
No way that he's.
But he will. Because what is he averaging? 10, 11, right? 10, something like that. So you take that, right? You take that off. But it's not even just that. It's how he fits into the system, how he fits into the formation. You're running stuff through these guys. You have to remember that. You're running stuff through Shamari. You're running stuff through Raquandis, running stuff through Mukeba. When you lose somebody like that, you get confused, especially so late into the season. You know, you're never really prepared to lose a player like that, especially when you're making your playoff push.
Yeah, and I think, I had this conversation with Menzies before he left to come up to South Dakota.
Yes.
We talked about having such an inexperienced team, but to his point, he said that they're ready. Mm-hmm. Like, they're not just gonna lie down and just kind of die.
9.4 points per game, by the way.
Okay.
But I want to call back to something else that Coach Menzies had said earlier this season. I asked him a question before they played North Dakota for the first time. And North Dakota was on a 6-game losing streak at that point. The Roos currently are on a 5-game losing streak. So I asked him, what do you think of this? Do you see it as a trap game, or do you see it as an opportunity? And his response was, I always hate playing teams that are on losing streaks because they're always ready to pounce.
What's Omaha?
So, Omaha...
Are they on a losing streak?
They won 8 games this season. Their entire season is a losing streak. But I was more wanting to say his mentality, Coach Menzies' mentality, is that he is ready to pounce.
Yeah, I asked him too. I was like, are you expecting any of your players to be a leader? He says, I'm the leader. I'm the captain of the ship, not them.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
It's a fair point, but I'm also like, your Raquandis is going to have to step up. Like, you can't just be the one to be like, okay, I'm stepping up and to make everything better.
No, yeah, you need player leadership. All you can do is tell them what to do.
Exactly. So that was an interesting comment too. Thank you for telling me that, because he told me, because I asked him, I was like, hey, look, Raquandis is going to be in this position where he has to lead the pack. Are you kind of getting him ready to be a leader? Are you kind of telling Anderson, hey, tell your players this or that? And he just said, they're not the leaders. I'm the leader. I'm the captain of the ship. I'm what makes this team. He doesn't outright say, well, I make this team work, but he says that he's the leader. So, going to that, tomorrow night, it's going to be a very crucial game, I think, for the program, men's buys. How do the Roos win? And then I would like to hear your guys' predictions before I give you mine. Well, you guys kind of know, but I'm going to give you score prediction.
You want score predictions?
Yeah, so you tell me, Z, how do they win?
I don't know. I think I got... Oh, that's tough. It's going to be close. I can tell you that. I think I got 62-59 KC.
And how do you think they win?
Like, what do you mean? What are you asking me?
Like, if you're...
Game plan wise?
Yeah, game plan wise, what are you doing to get a win here? And then
I think you're just running everything through Raquandis. I think you're flexing your versatility. And it's really thing about the Roos is it's energy. They don't come out with the energy a lot of times. No. They have to come out swinging. That's what Omaha's gonna do. When you're an 8-win team, you have something to prove. Like you're coming in to determine. I'm trying to prove all of y'all wrong. Like you know what I mean. So I think UMKC is trying to do the same thing. But if it's me, I'm running through Raquandis. I'm trying to get him going, because when he's going, you're not stopping him.
Yeah, and he did win newcomer of the year.
Right.
And he won all honorable for the first team, I believe.
Right. So I mean, yeah. That's what I'm going to do. And then, Jeff and Gunter is going to be a big piece, too.
Yeah,
you got to have the paint presence.
Zach?
Jeff's getting all the blocks.
Right.
I could see him getting another 5-block game, which would be crucial.
Fantastic.
But I think that the Roos are going to try to start by running through Raquandis. But I don't know if Raquandis will actually be able to get going. We've seen in the last several games, he was struggling. Now, I don't know if he'll have that kink worked out by the end of this game, or I hope by the start of this game. But if he doesn't get going, I can see other players stepping up and getting everything moving.
Right.
I could see even bench player Sam Martin, senior Sam Martin, getting going because, well, the last time I watched him play was senior night, and he went off.
He did. He had one of those senior nights to remember, but a senior night to forget because it lost as well.
Unfortunately, they did. As for score predictions, the Roos always seem to start off slow, and by halftime, we're all disappointed. But second half team, I could see a close one, 66-64 Roos.
The way that I've seen these games, and I've called most if not all these games, is I think the Roos are not great when it comes to holding leads. I think that's the only thing that's one of the things I'm worried about. Because I think at one point they had an 18-2 run at one game. I think it was against North Dakota. But they can choke. And that's my issue. It's like, I want to see consistency. I want to see Raquandis get smart shots from the 3-point line. I don't want to see the Idiaro twins take threes. I want them to play bully ball inside the paint. Mm-hmm. You want Uganda to be a presence defensively, and you want your young guys like Jevin Sullivan. You want your Tyler Andrews. You want your Diallo to be a presence in the mid-range. The biggest thing I'm worried about right now is also fouls. We have seen games where the Roos will have like 3 fouls by midway through the second half. And that can be a problem. Because when you're at 3, you have 2 more, and then you're out. And we have seen games where they've lost 2 players, 2 fouls, and then they have this dwindling kind of depth. I do think the Roos will win. I think they'll win in a close, low-scoring effort. I think it'll be 61-59. I think they'll have a great defensive possession against Omaha. But I will say, again, I'm cautiously optimistic because I've seen the Roos play well. I've seen the Roos play impressively. But I've also seen the Roos, play in a way that not a lot of people want them to play. Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest things for me right now is don't choke. Don't let up in the second half. Keep playing with that physicality. Like, you might want to start a little easy in the beginning, but you're going to have to play with a lot of energy to end in the second half. And you also have to be you have to be, disciplined. Like, don't give up those easy fouls. No, you're good. Just be disciplined. And then lastly, I think it's all about taking efficient shots. We have seen the Roos
They just chuck them up sometimes.
Yeah, we have seen them go 0-12 at the 3-point line. We have seen them have like a 30% shooting night.
Yeah.
So and that's another thing too from the Roos, from both teams, is like, you need them to be efficient. You want to take good shots. So again, I think the Roos will win, but it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of scheming, and it's going to take a lot of shot creating from the bigs, getting those screens, and also just letting Raquandis find his shot.
I think you just let him do him for the most part.
Yeah, just let him cook. That's what it is.
Yeah, let him cook. But I agree with you though. You have to be more efficient because with the Roos, it seems like you always want to work your way from in to out, and warm up.
Right.
It seems like the Roos want to work out to in. It's like they chuck up the threes when they don't fall. Then they try and work it inside. So. All
right. Well, we're gonna leave it at that. Zach, thank you for.
I got one more thing I want to say.
No, go ahead.
It's something I've called back to. It's a tweet I've called back to twice in articles, but it stands so true. And it's from Mid Madness. It's
shout out Mid Madness.
SB Nation's mid-major.
Mid-major madness page.
Yeah.
Shout out to them on Twitter.
When the Roos are on, the Roos are on. Really high ceiling for this team.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, thank you, Zach, for kind of talking men's basketball for us. And we're going to be right back after this short little break. Z, you got all hydrated and whatnot?
Got all hydrated. Yeah, got to finish my core water.
Now we're gonna move on from.
It's recycled plastic right there.
Oh, that's crazy, dude. You know what?
Bree, I know you're happy right now.
Yeah, Bree, I know you're happy that Z's using his core water bottle.
She's gonna be mad about the water bottles.
She's gonna be mad about us apologizing because apparently I apologized too much because I was setting this up and I was like,
because you said it twice. And like it was not like, it wasn't your fault. I said it was cold, and you said, I'm sorry.
Bro, but I can also feel like Bree's yelling at us because you know how she's like, she hates when you do that.
She hates it. She absolutely does hate it.
Bree, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll recycle the water bottles.
We will. I will make sure that he recycles that water bottle.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to move on because I have Lane Mayo. He's our analyst for women's basketball, and he writes all these stories. Lane, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Let's get this thing started because I have a lot to say about women's basketball team. First of all, they're going to be facing Denver.
Yep.
A team that I don't believe they beat, or did they?
They've lost both their matchups.
Oh, there you go.
By double digit, or no, by 9 and then one by 13.
So first of all, I wanted to be the one to provide the update here. So last week here in Kansas City, they did not have Tamia Ugas, who was it, Rain Green and Trinity Moreland. They were all out due to illness. We're not sure what illness it is. Can't really say at the moment. But after talking to Coach Downa Jackson Durrett on Wednesday, I can confirm that Tamia will be back for the tournament. We're not sure about Rain. We did see her practice with Trinity on a video that they uploaded. They both had masks on. So that's something interesting to kind of keep an eye on. But we will make the announcement on Twitter whether or not we'll see Rain Green. We will know by warm-ups is what they told us.
And
so
what time do warm-ups start again?
I think they're going to start around 12.
Okay. 3 hours before game time?
Yeah, 3 hours. Yeah, wait. We play
12, that's not right.
No, we play at 3:30, right?
Yeah, warm-ups.
Oh, then by 3 o'clock they'll be warming up.
Yeah.
Because they usually have like 45 minutes. They'll start warming up. So 45 minutes before the game, they'll start warming up.
Yeah.
So yeah, by the time that they're warming up, we'll let you guys know if Rain's on. But anywho, so I just wanted to provide that kind of injury update for the Roos and for all of our UMKC folks out there in Kansas City. But let's get to it. This season has been interesting for the women's basketball team.
Interesting is an understatement.
Yes.
Very much an understatement. But funny enough, we lose a lot of players. Mm-hmm. So we lose Ravon Nero. We lose Danny Winslow first, and then Nero. Then Honesty Smith, who's a freshman. Grace Graham, who's a freshman. We lose 4 players.
3 at once in January, then we lose the one in December early on.
Yeah. And we lose a starter in Danny, and you lose Ravon Nero, who's a sixth player on the bench.
And you know what was interesting is we didn't publicly know that Danny was departed from the team.
Well, I was gonna say that because she was kind of going off in the games before she stopped. I think
she was top 5 in rebounds, 11 a game.
She has the not franchise, but she leads the school in rebounds in a single game.
You know what's crazy about that? I think you told me, Cristian, that they lost by so much that stat is just so
overblown.
Yeah. It's not even recognized.
Yeah, and that's what we want to talk about because this season for them has been polarizing to say the least.
Doo-doo.
Yeah, not good. This is the first time since 2013 that both teams have lost 20 games. And that was the last year that they played in NCAA before they came back in 2020. So I'm going to keep that in mind.
Yep, and this is also the second year in school history that they have lost 22 games or more in a single season.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that just gives you perspective on where we're at. How it's going for us.
Yeah.
But I'm a little optimistic coming into this game.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about their last two games and how they kind of performed?
Yeah, the one versus South Dakota State. I mean, everybody kind of knew what we were getting into. They were undefeated. They still are undefeated. But yeah, that was going to be a blowout no matter how you saw it. They had rain was out, but they did have Trinity Moreland and Tomeat UGAS get that game. They lost by probably over 25, 30, something around there.
They lost by that game. I believe they lost by 50.
Oh,
Really?
I think they got like almost 50 balled. It was
It
not
was
a.
closer to 40, I think.
It was not a pretty.
It was not great. The second half was shaky.
Very no. I don't want to call it shake. I'd say
It was-
more of like collapsing.
Yeah, it was a 17-point deficit at the half. I was like, okay, well, this is better than the 50 whatever to 14 we had last time up in Bellevue. But yeah, kept it within 17. Then the third quarter, they made halftime adjustments, and it just went downhill from there.
Yeah, it's funny because I called that game by myself, and it was torturous calling that game because, yeah, I just watched the team collapse, and I wanted to talk, the South Dakota game. However,
The Saturday game, yeah.
yeah, they lost by
1 point.
1 point, and that's a team who's in the top, one of the best teams in the conference. So
They're top 4. I think they seeded at 4, or with the win they may have moved up to 3. I don't know.
yeah,
But they're definitely up there, top 4, 3.
and yeah, so let me first start off by talking about the return of Lee Stafford and Sinai Z. Sinai, I'll tell you a little bit. She's kind of like this X factor for the team. She gets a lot of steals. She had 5 steals on Saturday when she had more minutes. She was great scoring wise. She's, I think she's a very solid facilitator. Meanwhile, Elise just gives you those points behind the perimeter. She's a great 3-point shooter. She's also great creating her own shots in the mid-range area, and even she can hit good 12-footers when she has to. Tell me a little bit about having those players back, especially in this kind of season where things haven't gone their way.
I mean, obviously it's important, like, especially when you have so much, not to cause any controversy, not to be disrespectful, but
Do what you gotta do.
when you have a team that has a lot of behind the scenes dysfunction, having a player like Sinai on the court who can facilitate and kind of lead, that's your game changer right there. Because they don't really have a clear it. You know what I mean? Like Lakers have LeBron, like Suns have KD. They don't have a clear it. They don't have.
Hold on. Suns have Devin Booker.
We're not gonna talk about that right now. We're not gonna talk about this right now. You can argue with me at a different time on our Courtside KC NBA edition, but we're not gonna talk about that right now.
All right. That's fine.
So the Sixers have Joel. How about that?
There you go. That's better.
Bucks have Giannis. They don't have an it. It's kind of scattered. It's kind of like okay, who's gonna go off tonight? It's like who's gonna do their job tonight? And they don't all around show up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some people show up to play. Some people show up to play, but there's no energy. There's no oh, I want to win. There's no dog. There's no dog in them. You know what I mean? Like they're not out for blood. They're not thirsty. That's actually, people joke about it all the time. That's an important thing. You look at Kobe, he's not as good as a player without the mentality.
I think here in Lane, you can hop in as well. I think Sinai is that player. I don't think Elise is.
Really?
You have to have multiple. You can't just have one. You have to have multiple.
But look at the men's team, right? Again, hopping back to the men's team, I don't think they have more than one mentality as person. It's Raquandis who runs that team. For me,
I was gonna say Shamari and Raquandis.
Well, Shamari and Raquandis, but they lost Shamari.
Okay.
So now you only have
now it's
Raquandis.
Raquandis, yeah.
But you look at the women's team, it is Sinai. Sinai is that Kobe mentality as player. Like the fact that she was able to get 5 steals when she's wearing a Rip Hamilton mask to make sure that she almost got re-injured She was
dove for the ball on Thursday's game towards the sideline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
She was hustling for the ball down 20.
She don't care about her injury.
That's the mentality you need to have.
And everybody should have that mentality.
It's not even just everybody should have it. Everybody has to compliment it.
Give into it.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you recognize somebody has that dog, somebody came to play, and you're like, okay, they got it. You don't want to play. You don't want to win. They don't got it. Y'all got it. You're a team. So I think that's the biggest that's the biggest factor going into the game. Can everybody come to play? Did everybody come to play?
Fair. And I don't know. When you said like no one has it, I say Sinai has it. Like I think that's the big reason they've lost. Besides the off the court stuff, I think not having Sinai since who they play, North Dakota. Or when the last time she got injured.
Her injury was against Denver.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Well, when they played Denver in Kansas City, ever since that moment, they did not look well.
No.
Like, they need her. And it shows.
Their chemistry fell off after her injury.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And that's when it started losing everybody.
And then the departures came when they lost 3 over a span of a weekend.
Yeah.
They all departed.
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of like everybody's just giving up on this year. It's like, why? Like, you can still win.
I know. I feel like if they had the depth and those 3 players stayed in, they would have probably pulled away with like another couple, 3 or 4 wins. They'd probably be sitting at like 12 and 16, right? 17.
Which isn't
12,
like
17.
That's like
terrible.
That's like another like jump up to like that's 9 or 8. That's still better than sitting at the 10, just throwing your whole season away.
Absolutely. I mean,
Right.
like you can't just give up mid-season. I understand like there's behind the scenes stuff with those players. Nothing to rag on those players. Nothing against those players. We all have stuff happening. It's not about them. It's about the team as a whole. Like when you see those players like have to take a step back. You shouldn't look and be like, oh, like we had all these players take a step back. Sinai's injured. One of our best players injured. We're just trying next year. We're gonna try again next year.
Right.
You have to want to fill that role, fill those shoes. Like that's what separates great from mediocre.
My problem with that mentality, though, is that if you put yourself into the shoes to, like, you give your all to the team, like, Elise, she comes into the program and they're in a rebuilding year. She gave away her graduate year to play for a rebuilding team with Kansas City.
Yeah, and she played in Utah State.
Yeah.
Like, they're a team that misses her. And, like, she essentially went to a program that's basically very similar to Utah State, but I feel like Elise is giving it her all. Sinai has.
She's given it, like, I'd say with her injury, she's probably not going to be 100%. I don't know the extent of her injury if she's 100% now, but I could tell that with her injury, she hasn't played, like, her highest level basketball that we've seen her, like, early on in the season. But for the players that, I'm not going to say backed out, they had their own reasons, and they're not here with us.
Yeah.
But
They made the personal decision.
they made their own decisions, but I just feel like it's not disrespectful in a way, but just to have at least put her all into the team and for them to just, put her hands up in the air.
It's devastating to do that. Like to know you're like giving 100%, 110% every night, looking at your teammates like, like whatever.
Well, I got 2 more years of eligibility.
I'll do it next. Like, bro, I'd be so hot. I'd be like, come on, like let's win, dude.
Okay,
Like,
speaking of which, Mana Mensa, I feel bad for her too.
She transferred mid-season with all this drama going on. She put up 23, led the team in scoring, and she's hardly gotten like any of she hasn't practiced like the whole season with under Jackson Durrett's coaching.
Exactly.
And she's picked up on the playbook and she's taken it by storm. She's led the team in that there was only 7 players active in that 1-point loss last Saturday.
And now they're getting 3 back.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I think they will.
I think they will too, but we'll see. We'll see.
Potentially.
Yeah, by game day we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of which, I want to talk about the game plan because something that, again, I apologize, but it made me a little irritated was the way that they were kept going back to passing it on the inside. Like, Z, you know when you have a player like a Shaquille O'Neal, when you have a Giannis, when you have an Embiid, you can pass it to the inside because they are able to catch the ball. For example, if I'm tossing it to you over the shoulder, those players, or even just any center understands like, okay, I know that my guard is going to throw it on the inside to me, and they're going to throw it over their shoulder so the defender doesn't hit it. I know to be there, and I know to catch it, and I know to put it up.
right.
The women's team cannot do that to save their lives. I've seen them so many times. You were at the South Dakota State game. You saw it 10 times. They would pass it inside, and then it would be a turnover. Literally, like, all you would have to do is put your hands up, and you can get a turnover. And it bothered me that they kept going inside.
I don't know what they were trying to do. Were they trying to feed it into the post, hook shot over the defender? They were getting double teamed. Then they're trying to pass it back out to the corner, to the top of the key, and then it gets turned over. Transition, easy 2 points for them.
Well, I didn't watch that. I wasn't there. I didn't see that game.
No.
But from what I heard, they did the same thing in the second half too.
Yeah, in the second half, they literally like mimicked the same
and then nothing changed.
Same kind of play 3 times in a row, and they just changed it up to like they rolled out, like pass it back and forth, and then they either kicked it out to the corner, kicked it back inside, or kicked into or put shot up into fadeaway. It just they threw the game away. They already knew the outcome. They just tried to do something new, and it didn't work.
So Z, I wanted to ask you, because something that I saw that worked in the South Dakota game, not in the South Dakota State game, is that Mensa, St. Andre, and Stafford were making their own shots. Like, they were doing their best work in the mid-range to, post area, and then they would have really good, like, 3-point shots. So, like, and it seems like Coach Jackson Durrett is trying to, like, make a presence inside the paint, or even in the hole. Would you try to balance both, or are you more relying on the kind of off-ball kind of movements and creating their own, kind of being their own shot creators in their own way?
Well, it's most of the time it's not really up to you. You plan, but a good coach is separated from a decent coach because of their ability to adjust on the fly. Off-ball movement is something that needs to be happening all game.
Yes.
That's why dudes like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson are so good. Their off-ball movement is ridiculous. They had their stamina. They're like it's insane.
Yeah.
If you want to feed the paint, by all means. I love Shaq. I love those guys. But like, nowadays, even dudes like Joel Embiid, Giannis, Jokic, you will never see them being fed in the paint all game.
Because they know they get fouled.
Exactly. Like, what's going to happen. You have to adjust around it. You want to feed the post, fine. Feed the post. Don't try and force it into the post.
Right.
Don't try and force a shot out of the post.
Right.
You know what I mean? You need to make your reads, pretty much. That's the game plan. Make your reads, make the proper reads, be efficient, be consistent. If you're gonna try and get it inside, work an inside out rotation. Work inside. It's not there. You get double team, find the open man. You get double team, somebody's open.
Yep.
They're not going to be able to rotate every time unless they're, I don't know. If they're a fantastic team, they probably will. But even great teams aren't going to be able to rotate every play. You're going to find the mismatch. You're going to find the open person. So work inside out if you're so hung up on this, like, feed the post mentality. But if you're able to create your own shots on the perimeter, I say work around that. And like, if you need to, if they're everybody starts missing shots, everybody starts getting inconsistent. Once they start missing shots, once they start cooling off, then work that inside out mentality. Because then, like, okay, that's another adjustment that the other team has to adjust with. Like, that's something else that they, like, aren't ready for. Because if you have, 3 players that you said were kind of working on their shot creation, like getting their
all the regards.
If all 3 of them are on, all 3 of them are doing their thing. Let's say even all 3 of them stop. Like, all 3 of them cool off at the same time. Mm-hmm. Nobody's expecting that. You're expecting 1 or 2 to cool off, the other one to be hot, take over. If all 3 of them were to cool off, then you can go inside out. They're still not expecting it. They're planning around those 3 players at that moment. So I think you just have to read what their formations are and read what they're doing and what they're planned for.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I'm worried about the most is their shot selection.
Oh, I mean, that's that's probably the most important part of the game. Like, you have to take good shots. You know what I mean? Like,
there are some times, man, where I'm watching a game and you see them take a shot and it's just not there. And it's just so deflating. It feels forced. Exactly. So I think, and I'm very interested to see how they improve on the shot selection, because I felt like they did a good job with that. I felt like Coach Jackson Durrett, the last couple minutes of the game, I felt like there were some things that I wish could have gone different ways. But other than that, I mean, it's regular season's past.
Yeah.
Postseason's what matters. Now we're going to get to the thick of it. I really want your guys' predictions because I feel like this is a team, to me, that is a wild card. Because
Yeah.
I'll give you my thoughts first, and I would like to see your guys'. Because I think you have 3 capable guards. I think getting Tamia back is very important, especially rebound-wise. And I think having a Jocelyn Ewell helps. Having Makai on the bench, Zaire Harrell. Zaire Harrell reminds me of a younger Sanai.
Yeah.
Because I even sit with her in class. She's in one of my classes. And you can just tell that she's focused and she's ready.
She got that drive.
She's ready to ball. Like, she can pester offenses. Ava, Jackson went to school with her and said that she's really good at the 3-point line. I want to see her shoot from the perimeter or even the mid-range, 12-footers a little bit more.
Yeah, well, the thing is that, who was it again?
Ava Murphy.
She played 6 minutes, didn't even attempt a single 3 in the game that they had 7 players total.
Right.
So if she's not involved in a game where there's 7 players total on the roster, when you gain 3 players back in Ugas, Rain, and Moreland, she may not even see any minutes.
Speaking of which, if we get Rain back, that is enormous because, Z, you know more than I do. Rotating guards is key. Yeah. Like, you cannot expect a guard to play 40 minutes and expect them to play their best. I know
They did Saturday.
They did Saturday, but you can tell that they were gassed.
That's why I think they fell apart in the final 2 minutes. I think that fatigue got to them. Their transition, mismatches, they got really, terrorized from inside.
I think you can play your guards all 40 minutes, but you have to make sure they know they're playing all 40 minutes. Because if you don't know you're playing all 40 minutes,
that's devastating.
You're mentally fatigued,
and you're giving your effort, you're giving 100% throughout the game. If you obviously you're gonna give 100% throughout the game. In terms of physique, you can't. Physically, you cannot sprint. Some people don't really understand the stamina it takes to like NBA players. That's the highest level of athleticism on the planet. Maybe soccer, but
right.
You have to make sure they know they're playing at least 35 or so. You have to say, hey, you're going to play the majority of the game, because then they can partition. I think that's the right word. They can, play throughout the game. They can make their adjustments. They don't have to be trying to score 24/7 the whole game. They can section off how they impact the game is what I'm trying to say. If you're trying to play them that whole game, then tell them, because then they can plan accordingly.
I think with adding Rain Green back to the lineup, I think you can spread the minutes through Mensa, Stafford, and St. Andre. You don't have to force them to play 40 minutes, because if they end up winning this game, and I think they will, we'll get into that later. If they end up winning this game, you're going to have them turn around 24 hours later and play an even tougher opponent after playing 40 minutes of physical, intense basketball with this Denver team. It's just, you might as well just throw that second game away and you put all your eggs in this one basket.
Yeah, it's so tolling. That level of play, you know what I mean? And then to do it all again in 24 hours, it honestly sucks. Sometimes, you know what I mean?
No.
It's so tiring, but yeah.
And looking at Denver, I think you mentioned this in your story. Go to kcroos.com to read that.
Thanks for the shout.
They have a graduate and senior guard, both that are forwards that are 6'1", 6'3".
The Michaelas.
Yeah, the Michaelas, Michaela and Michaela. Monet, it's Brandon, Michaela Brandon, and Michaela Monet. Those players, I agree, worry me because I don't feel like
terrify me.
Yeah, I don't feel like the Roos have the size to match up with them.
It's not the size. They don't have the physicality. I think they can put their hands up all they want, but if they bully you from underneath, you might as well you're going to get 15, 20 points taken up on you easily.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, and I think we'll go back to my predictions. I think the Roos will win. I think the guards are going to be too much for Denver.
I think the inexperience with Denver's guard, Emma Smith, freshman, is leading the team with 13.5 points per game.
I think, and that's the thing. I think the experience wins. But I also, I don't know if this is a hot take per se. I think Coach Jackson Durrett is saving her best for last.
I think it's a hot take. I'll be honest.
I personally think that I think that this is going to be her quote swan song. I feel like this is her trying. This is going to be her putting out 1,010%, because we look at you understand that you're coming into a postseason where everyone's doubting you. She is in a position now where she has never been. She's played for organizations like Texas and I believe Oklahoma. I'm not sure. I know Texas for a fact, but those are big time teams.
High level schools. And now you go to a team like UMKC. You go to an organization like UMKC or Kansas City, as I should say. We don't call them UKC. The Kansas City Roos. Yep.
You go into this organization that is looking for something, and obviously this year hasn't been well. Losing J.C. Hoyt, who has taken a Oklahoma State program from 9 wins to 20 wins. That's a culture shock. But I think she'll get this win. I think she beats. I think this team will beat Denver 63 to 50. Well, we'll say 63 to 60. I think that.
You think they'll pull out a close win? Because these wins, they either pull away by like 10 or 15 and they just somehow keep it up, or they fall away and lose by 10 or 15 themselves.
I think they keep it close. Here's why. I don't think. Here's the thing. I don't think they come out of this win by 10 plus points. There's no way that they come out 10 plus. And not to offend.
I know.
I'm not trying to say.
Just the way you said it was kind of funny.
Yeah, there's just there in my mind. I don't see this Roos team winning by 10 plus points. I understand, you either up by 10 or you win by 10 or you lose by like 20. I get that notion. I get that concept. But I think that she's going to take what she learned from South Dakota and say,
small ball.
I know what to do in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You also have 3 players coming back, 3 players who can play meaningful minutes, 2 of them especially. And I think that makes a difference. I think if you had Tamia and you had Rain Green,
you win that game.
You win that game, and you win it by a substantial amount. I think they can win it by
8 or 12.
Yeah. So again, I think they win 63-60.
Well, that's my argument though. Is that if you add Rain Green and you add Tamia back in the lineup, they win that game by double digits. But that's a more inferior opponent in South Dakota. They're probably a 3 or 4 now. But now we're going against the number 7. So what's to say that we can't implement both Rain and Tamia back in the lineup, run that same scheme that we put it against South Dakota, and we go up and win by 10 plus?
I don't know. I feel like this is going to be one of those games where Z and I will be calling it, and it's going to be a nail biter. I think both these games are going to be tough as nails, but I firmly believe that I firmly believe that this game is going to be close, no matter what. So, I'm going to say 63-60. Z, give me your thoughts. And again, the way that they win is it's going to be all about Stafford, Sinai, and Mensah.
I see your point in saying that you think Coach Durrett is, saving up that game plan, making this final push, right? I see why you're saying that.
Right.
I think it's false for a couple reasons. If that were the case, she would not have been messing up these rotations so much. She would not on purpose.
Right.
She's had injuries, had other external issues.
To your point, there's only been one Roo player that has played all 29 games this season. So therefore, the roster has been piecemeal together so many times.
Exactly.
That there's not a lot of cohesion within the team as well.
It would have been more consistent if your rotations would have had a lot more consistency in how they worked.
But here's the thing. Let me counter real quick.
Please.
But I think that you've seen a more consistent rotation at the end of the week, like these last couple weeks.
Yeah.
How many games?
Like maybe 4 matches they've kept at least a semi-decent ever since the return of Elise and Sinai.
Okay,
Yes.
well, that's fair, but Denver's been doing it all year. That's the thing. Denver has been consistent all year. They had the rotations all year. They have their chemistry.
Denver has 3 players who have played all 29 games this season: Ali Har, Michaela, and Michaela.
So I mean, it's just I don't know. I think chemistry is also another big thing.
Right.
Obviously there's been some behind the scenes stuff. There's been other, factors at play, but the chemistry isn't really there because if the chemistry was there, they're picking each other up. You know, they're all coming out to play. Like we said earlier, only some of them will come out to play. They are not well rounded when in that regard.
Right.
So I think their chemistry is not the best. For those reasons, I believe that Coach Durrett is taking it game by game. I think she's planning for what she has right now, planning for how it goes. If they win, we'll see what happens after that. But for those reasons, I have Denver 59 to 48.
48 in a tournament game? Jeez.
Okay. We'll talk. We'll talk after.
48.
We'll talk after the
4-8 points.
Yeah. We'll talk after Lane gives us. Yeah, go Lane. Who do you think's winning, and give me your reasons why.
Well, the funny thing is that Kansas City has scored 60 points in both matchups against Denver, losing both. So I think the benchmark for Kansas City to win this game is going to be over 60 points. You're going to have Sinai back with fully healthy against the Denver team that she did not play the second time and was out in early in the fourth quarter when she suffered an injury. Then the game fell apart from there. They lost by 13 that game.
Right.
The thing is that for the Roos to win this game, they have to contain Michaela and Michaela. Michaela Monet has 72 blocks. And the Roos have... Let me look at it. They have... Oh my goodness, I have so many tabs open, it's not even funny.
You're fine.
Oh, I can't find it. Let's just say that they have half of what Michaela Monet puts up. And then their second leading block is Danny Winslow, and she's not even on the team anymore. And tied second is Elise Stafford with 20, and she's their guard. So
if your guard is leading in blocks, there's something not right.
Yeah.
Unless that's Dwayne Wade, and Dwayne Wade was probably the best shot at blocking guard of all
that
time.
Elise Stafford plays guard, but she's listed as a guard forward at 6'1".
Guard forward at 6'1"?
Mm-hmm.
They had her at the 5 when they lost all their centers.
Small ball is a very interesting thing.
They were successful with it last Saturday. I don't know if they can mirror match that kind of a thing when they have a 6'3" Michaela Brandon and a 6'1" Michaela Monet. They can't. They're going to get absolutely decimated inside, and
they're going to have to play Tamia and Joss and Ewell or Makai.
I think you have to start either Makai or Micaiah Mullins and Jocelyn Ewell, or you start Ugas and Ewell at the same time. And then you run the big three. Well, I call it big three. It's the only three that they have that can put up points. I am sorry to say that.
No. Hey, you're being honest. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's what a big three does. That's what a big three does, you know?
And the thing is that if they put up 15 points each like they did, I think they can...
It's already 45.
Yeah, that's 45 between three players.
Quick maths, yeah.
Well, they had more than 45. 17, 20, 23. Anyways, at least 15 per guard. But then you also put Rain Green in there that can take away minutes because you don't want Mensah and Stafford playing 40 again. That was just a situation where they had 7 players on the roster. They got into late foul trouble, and they only had 6 players to even one swap rotate in there when Ugas or was it was Mullins who got into foul trouble.
She got bounced out quick by 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's the only reason she played 35 minutes because she fouled out. Otherwise, she would have been up there with Sinai and everybody else with 38 plus.
Let me ask you a question, because I don't know much about Denver. Are they a tall team?
Outside of their
forwards.
Their forwards, I'm not 100% sure, but their duo of Michaela and Michaela, they have started every game. They will probably be out there.
Those are the forwards?
Mm-hmm. They'll probably be out there for at least 32, 34 minutes out of the 40 because they have such a roster filled lineup where they can interchange those with a sophomore or a junior in there.
UMKC runs small ball now?
They should. I think if it worked.
I don't know. I wanted to get back to. I don't think small ball is going to work for this team.
Well, that's
not against Denver, I don't think.
Because if you're running small ball, your 3 has to be falling.
Yeah.
Because you're even trying to blow by.
That's when off ball works. That's when off ball movement works. Is when you have 2 big 6'1", 6'3", who aren't going to be as fast as your guards.
You have to draw in the defense with your drive. Like if you're trying to do a blow by.
But that's where I think Sinai is really good at doing that. She drives to the basket really well and gets those contact finishes.
I think it'll be interesting. I think they have to be able to knock down the three though. That's going to be the key factor. If they're running small ball, they need to knock down the three.
Well,
it's a lot more difficult to score on height.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to score on height.
But the thing is, if you run a 5 out and you draw those centers out and then you have that blow by, if they're not fast enough, you can squeeze
absolutely.
right through.
But it's also very difficult to finish over height.
Yeah. And that's not what the Roos have done well, even when they go against 6-footers. Because their highest is, their tallest is a 6'3", and then she's finished probably under 40% under the rim anyways.
That's why I think Denver is taking this. Simply matchups. Matchups are a big part of basketball.
I think the matchup is going to be their bigs versus our guards and who can score more.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the bigs for Denver absolutely bully and put Tamia and Jocelyn into foul trouble early, then we have to put in smaller people in the lineup, and then they can just go to town.
We saw that in South Dakota State. We saw that their bigs were able to go inside. I think it was Burkholder and a bunch of I think Brooklyn, forget her last name. She has a sister who plays on the team. But we've seen that in South Dakota State. Mm-hmm. But we also saw South Dakota struggle keeping up with our guards.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had a hard time just trying to stay alive and try to, like, play defense against three of our good guards. Okay, well, we have hit the hour mark, so we're going to have to cut this short.
Give me my score prediction.
Yeah, get your score prediction in.
I said they have to score over 60. And I think they will. I got it 64-59.
64-59. All right, well.
Yes.
All right, well.
I have to have the faith. I've had little to no faith the whole season.
That's fair.
7 wins on one of the worst seasons in school history. I think they can pull off the shocker, go into the second round, and I'll be a happy man.
There you go. Well, thank you, Lane, for coming.
No problem.
And appreciate you. We'll have this talk tomorrow, depending on how the results are.
I was going to say, depending on how it goes.
Yeah, depending on how it goes, we'll release an episode tomorrow regardless.
Oh, yeah.
Or tomorrow night to Saturday morning. We'll see.
You got to talk about the games.
We do have to talk about the games after, because that's going to be tomorrow night's going to be crucial.
I will be the most opinionated person.
Please.
On this planet.
Please be opinionated.
Yeah.
I will. I will go in if they lose that game, because I know that if they've just given up and just go out there and have fun, it's like...
Oh, yeah. You got to dig.
Then why did I put $160 into this Airbnb and take 6 hours of my life
right,
just for them to just throw the game away early on? It's like...
Like, you could have told us.
I've got more faith in the team than they do internally. It's like...
That's fair. That's a fair point.
All right,
don't let me down.
Before we go, any shout-outs you guys want to give? I do want to see... we're all hot right now, like Mike-wise. So... y'all want to give some shout-outs before we head out.
Shout out to my boy Armani. I'm excited to do this podcast with you. You know, got a lot of things coming. I love you, brother. So I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated.
I got to shout out my boy Evan Bakori. He's got a podcast that I've been on there. Got Michael Schmel. I got Jeremiah Hobbs. I got my brother Logan. I know he'll probably listen to this. I'll force him to listen to this. He has nothing. He only saw the one game of South Dakota State.
Right.
And he was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I'll force him to listen to it. But yeah.
Sorry, Zach. Also, you said that Monty has a podcast too, Monty Pod. Go check that out. And my boy KDC just dropped his album, All or Nothing too. So go check that out too, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Zach?
Hey, shout out the Roos News team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Real news.
You took my shot. Yeah, I would say, obviously, a couple shout-outs for me personally. So we're going to be using Keaton's music for this podcast.
My boy Keaton.
Yeah, High Key Productions. We've been working with him all year.
My bosses, you know.
Yeah. You make music with him. So, shout out to Keaton Baker. He's a big part, music-wise, of what we do. Very awesome guy.
Go check out High Key Productions.
High Key Productions. He's been making the music during the streams, and we're going to be using one of his songs. I think it's going to be called Champions, and we're going to be using it during in the beginning of the podcast.
We should use a song for Z. What the Z made.
Yes, there are some songs that Z has made if you
You know
sure.
what's crazy, right? Is that he like slid in those songs into the playlist with like Lil Baby and all that.
He thought he was slick. He thought he was
Slick
slick.
with
He
it,
did.
too.
We
I'm
all
like-
saw that.
No, I gotta listen to myself. You know, gotta be my
Yeah.
biggest supporter.
Oh yeah, no, and we.
I mean, it
that
was
one. There's
really
that
good,
one
though.
song.
Thank
that,
you, appreciate
Yeah.
you. Appreciate
There's the
you.
one song that in the entire Roo News editing 2, 3, 4, 1, 2.
Let me know,
That
yeah.
song is great. But also, you know, yeah. So shout out to Bree, you know, editor in chief. She's been hustling, trying to get stuff out. We just got a print.
Yeah,
We just got
our
print
first
back.
print
Mr.
out.
Barnes was doing that a couple weeks now, and you know I'm excited to have print. So if you're in Kansas City,
Just
you'll
don't peep the logo that.
Yeah, just ignore the sports logo.
ignore the sports
Ignore
logo.
the sports logo.
Zoe, you did a great job, but
Zoe, the logo is fantastic. I love the work you do.
Diving for the ball, guys. Diving for the ball.
She,
Yeah,
but yeah, he's diving for the ball.
The Roos
not
diving for
shooting
the ball.
it. Not
Yeah,
shooting
Casey's
it.
diving for
this issue. We'll fix it though. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But we'll fix it for you, Zoe. Thank you.
We'll fix that at some point.
I made the suggestion we just keep rotating until it's back to something.
Right. You know.
Also, you know, Kenzie's out there. You know, our lifestyle and culture editor, all the people who work at Roo News, all of our 30+ writers. Steve Kraske.
Big shout out to Mr. Kraske.
Big shout out. Big shout out to Steve. He's pushed us to make this podcast and
Get it started.
and I really appreciate him doing that. Bill Bell, obviously.
Bill Bell.
Gotta shout out Bill. Shout out Bill. And then I think also wanted to give some shout outs to the athletics department. I don't know if they'll hear this or not. I hope they do. But you know, we've been working with them this year a lot more than we did a couple years ago, and they've been giving us some opportunities to do things. Hey, maybe hopefully we'll get a player in on the podcast. It's more of a Hail Mary than ever before, but if we can get some players in, you know.
Do you think you can get a coach to sit down with us?
We'll see. I mean, that's the goal. I do want this to be an opportunity for coaches to kind of talk and just have fun.
I want them to reflect on their season. Just tell us, you know, where things went right or wrong.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I want them to pick their brain a little bit. Like, why did this happen? Why did this not happen?
I agree. I think that'd be fun.
As a writer, I feel like we have more questions than answers.
Right, and also just want to tell their stories.
Yeah.
Because Menzies' story and Jackson Durrett's story is very interesting. But we'll see. And yeah, and those are my shout outs. The biggest one out for the athletics department, you know, Jared Fox. He's the guy I've been working with a lot. That's the guy that, you know, since day one that I started as a sports editor, that's the person I've been working with the most. And also Dr. Martin, you know, the athletics director who gave us the chance to be on the court for the Roos and been calling the games, and now we get to be here. So yeah, and this podcast will be releasing hopefully on Friday. It will release on Friday morning. So if you do hear this before the game, I would say tune in to Roo TV. You'll see our scheduled stream there. We'll have that up tomorrow morning as well. The scheduled stream for both women's and men's. Remember, women's plays Denver at 3:30 p.m. So you'll catch us there at 3:30. And then men's, they'll play against Omaha at 8:30 p.m. It's gonna be a late one.
Yep.
You know, we're not used to it. You know, usually we're used to 7 p.m. 7 p.m. tip off. But yeah, so thank you guys for listening to us from Courtside. We appreciate it. Catch us tomorrow. We'll talk about the results of the game and just some of our thoughts. We'll talk with Zach, Lane, Z, and then myself included. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Courtside KC.
Yeah, Courtside KC. Roo up.